Hey Palworld fans, it's Justin from Palworld Tips, and today we are going to be covering the method I use to breed pals with perfect IVs and perfect passives. This will be a step-by-step process, so please watch the end of the video if you're interested in implementing this for yourself. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is come up with a game plan for what your pal's going to look like when it's finished. So I just bred this Anubis here, multiple copies of it, one for me and one for the other member of my guild. And basically what I did is I wrote down here on the sign, as you can see, Anubis Combat, and I wrote down the passives that I'm going for here. So just to show you that I'm going to do that, I'm going to have a sign in my base here that's going to say Anubis, and we're going to want Legend, Ferocious, Musclehead, and Earth Emperor. So that's going to be the passes we're aiming for on Anubis, and then we're also going to be aiming to get above 90% in each IV for this pal. So if you don't know what that means, I'm just going to quickly show you here. That's going to mean a 90% IV for the health here, the attack, and the defense. Now I do have an add-on that checks the IVs of all the pals, so this only works when I'm in the pal box, so I'm going to go in here and show you this. When I hover over the pal here, you can see there's a 90 in the HP stat, a 98 in attack, and 98 in defense. Step 2 is going to be finding the path to your perfect passive setup. In order to start breeding for IVs, we first need to get a set of Anubis that already have the desired passives. Most guides are going to tell you that the highest odds for breeding a pal with perfect passives is to use a male with 2 out of 4 of your desired passives and a female with the other 2 out of your 4 desired passives, as opposed to using a male and female that each already have the 4 perfect passives. While they are correct that this will increase the odds in getting perfect passive pals, this method will actually make it more difficult to get perfect IVs as well. And that's because we'll want to start slowly increasing the IV values of pals that already have the 4 desired passives, instead of breeding for IVs backwards onto double passive pals, and then again breeding them forward onto our 4 perfect passive pals. I'll dive into this a little later in the video, but for now let's work on getting a set of pals that already have our 4 desired passives. Okay, so now that we've determined that, we're going to want to start breeding these passives onto our Anubis. For the sake of this video, I'm going to assume that we do not have any Anubis with any of the desired passive. So just to show you here, I have a Anubis with Swift, Serious, Work Slave, and Artisan. That is not one of the 4 passes we're looking for, so we know that this will not be a good candidate to use. Since I have no other Anubis, I know I now need to breed for one, hopefully with the right passives on it. In order to do that, I'm going to bring up a helpful website here. We mentioned this in our 5 tips video, so I'll go ahead and link that in the description if you hadn't had a chance to see it. But basically, we're going to go here and we're going to type in Anubis and find the partners for it. So we're going to look and we see, hey, Serpent here will breed into Anubis. I'm going to go into my box, and I've already checked my box. I know that I have a Serpent with the desired passive, but you'll want to look through your box first and find the desired passives you're looking for. So we're going to go in here. I see I have a Serpent with Musclehead. This is one of the passives that I am looking to get onto my Anubis here. So we're going to go into the website here and take a look at everything that can breed with Serpent to get the passive. And I like to make a little notepad of this just to help. So I'm going to bring up a notepad here, and I'm going to type in Serpent, and we know we have one with Musclehead. So what does Serpent breed with? So we can see that it breeds with Incineram. We can see that it breeds with Incineram Noct. Anything else in the list here? Great, it looks like no, so we know we're going to need one of these 2 pals. So we can go with Incineram or Incineram Noct. Some of these passives, Legend and Earth Emperor in particular, we are not going to easily find pals that have these on them. So it may be required that we go 1, 2, or even 3 stages to get these passives passed down onto a pal that can then breed into Anubis. If that is the case, then we will just have to go ahead and do that. But essentially, that is all going to be part of our plan here. So basically, once we have our 4 pals that can breed into Anubis, that have all 4 of our passives, our desired passives here, we can go ahead and start breeding those to make the Anubis that each have one of those passives. Step 3 will be breeding for a perfect passive pal. Now that we have our set of Anubis, each with 1 or more desired passives, we can start to breed the males and females together to begin consolidating the passives together as we progress towards at least 1 Anubis with all 4 desired passives. The more breeding farms with Anubis in them, the faster this step will go. As you can see, my base here is currently set up with 10 breeding farms, and this really helps if I want to do multiple pals at once, or I could even put Anubis in all 10 of these to really push this forward and pump out a perfect Anubis quickly. As we produce more and more Anubis with perfect passives on them, we'll want to start replacing them until we can get all of our breeding pens. And in this case, if we wanted to use all 10, we would want 10 males and 10 females, all with perfect passives. Once we have that set up, it's time to start looking at IVs. Now that we have our breeding farm set up, it's time to start the lengthy process of breeding for IVs. I'll take this time now to cover why I prefer the method of breeding 2 pals with all 4 of the desired passives, instead of 2 pals each with 2 of the desired passives. There are 3 reasons for this. The first of which is, unless you already have great IVs on a pal with a single or 2 passives, it's extremely difficult to remove passives off of your higher IV pals in order to get good IVs on your double and single passive pals. Number 2 is that even if we were to get good IVs onto single passive pals, IV passing is only about a 30% chance per IV, meaning that if both pals have perfect IVs, it is about a 3.6% to hit perfect IVs on the double pal. This increases again to hit the correct gender on that pal, leaving us at 1.8 chance before even calculating the odds of also hitting the passives. We will again need to do this for the pal with the other 2 desirable passives and the other gender, and then a third time to hit the final pal. Number 3 is fluidity in replacing the already breeding pals. We'll dive into this a little deeper, but our method is going to involve constantly changing out the pals being bred to keep pushing the IVs that are being passed down. Now that we have that established, I'll show you what I mean by pushing the IVs being passed down by pals. But first, let's go over some of the naming conventions I use to keep things organized. So for example, in slot 1 and slot 2 here, I have, you'll see I have some codes laid out for my pals here. So the first number here is going to be our HP IV, followed by our attack IV, followed by our defense IV. Then I'm going to say the gender, and which farm I have this breeding in. So you'll see I have this across the board. I have male 1, male 2, female 1, male 2, female 2, male 3, female 3. Another thing I use to help keep myself organized is a spreadsheet with the IVs of all the currently breeding pals. I'll include a download link for this so you can use it as well and give you a rundown on how it functions. So let me bring this up for you. Essentially, I have a list here with males on the left and females on the right. And I have a list of each IV for each of the pals. So let's say I bred a male Shadowbeak. I'm on my Shadowbeak tab here. Let's say I bred a male Shadowbeak with the IVs of 0, 100, 100. I can type those in here, 0, 100, 100, and this is going to highlight red and green for the IVs it doesn't beat and the IVs it does beat, as well as a total at the end. Because we know there's a 15% chance per parent for the IV to be passed down, we could have a 100 male IV parent and a 0 IV female parent. And that means we're going to have a 15% chance of the 100 being passed down, a 15% chance of the 0 being passed down, and a 70% chance of a random mutation IV being passed down. So far, we've found no correlation between these 2 stats to tell you what this mutation could be. It could be anything from 0 to 100%, and it seems like everything is weighted evenly. Because of this, we're only going to care about stats that are above our threshold. For myself, I've set a threshold of 90 or higher, so any stat that I see with a 90 and above, I will consider for replacement. So this is going to take a little bit of practice, but essentially you want to start pairing together two parents that have a 90 and above IV in each stat combined, so that we can try to breed for a child that has a above 90 in each of these stats. For example, throughout our breeding process, let's say we took this same male with the 100, 100, or sorry, the 0, 100, 100, and we also had a female with 100, 0, and 0. These would be a great pair to put together so that we can start trying to breed for a child that hits the 15% on the female HP stat, the 15% on the male attack stat, and the 15% on the male defense stat. If we hit that perfectly, we will hit our pal that has the perfect 100-100 stat line. Now that we've rolled our pal with the perfect 100-100 stat line, or any 3 above 90 in my case is what my goal is, and we've hit the 4 perfect passives on that pal, all we have to do is go back, fill our breeding farms up with random combinations of the same pal until we get the number we need to condense that pal to the max condensation, and then we have a perfect, fully condensed 100% IV pal. Thanks for watching, guys. If you learned anything new today, please consider subscribing to the channel so we can bring you more in-depth tutorials like this one. If you have any questions about anything I covered today, I would be more than happy to answer them in the comment section below.